Only way is the right way, I might say. Nobody doing it better, y'all some lightweights. Malik Wright, up all day and all night, pushing all the buttons up to something till it's alright. He looking at it from all sides and angles, got a stripes on his body like he played for the Bengals. Oh man, there's no one discussing it. They came, they stayed, they either did it or done it. Man, I love it, cause all they ever do is win. So kick back, relax, the TWSN.
Thank you guys for tuning into our first post-game show of the season, albeit it's preseason. But I know a lot of people have a lot of thoughts on their mind, especially after the Bengals-Eagles game. And we kind of wanted to dust it off before, the season officially got underway. We won't be doing these for every preseason game, but we wanted to make sure we did this for the first preseason game because this is the first look we're getting at the Cincinnati Bengals in this squad. Daniel.
Yeah.
This is going to be one of those longer ones, just you and me tonight. But I think that there were some things to take away from this game, some bright spots, some certainly some struggles. And some stuff might shock some people, some stuff might not. I think we all could agree that the backup quarterback position, we definitely wish that we saw a little bit better out of them.
Yeah.
I think as a whole, I wish we saw better out of the receivers, the backup receivers. Charlie Jones was one of the bright spots today. Before we jump fully into that, let's make sure if you guys could do us a huge favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the TWSN studios. Remember, we are live from our Twitch channel, Sit Down with Malik Wright, and YouTube, as well as Twitter. We are back live on Twitter on Sit Down 513. But Daniel, let's talk about some of your bright spots of the game. I certainly have mine that I sort of want to get into, but I want to let you kick this one off first.
Yeah, I mean, first off, it was great to see some football. I'm sure we were all excited, and it actually just felt good watching the team. But the bright spots, first off, is we got to see the number one offense in action, right? We got to see the Jamar Chase. Dude is a superstar. Dude is the best wide receiver in the NFL. And I'm sure it just gave them some confidence, right? I mean, Joe Burrow goes out 9 for 10 and looked fantastic doing it, albeit it was against some of the Eagles, backup unit. But number one, Joe Burrow looked great. Jamar Chase looked great. Look at Chase Brown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Chase Brown was getting hyped up a lot, whether it's from, people in the fantasy community, people in the Bengals community. But man, this dude looks like he has a legit shot to easily clear 1,000 all-purpose yards. I mean, we may even be in the spot of talking of potentially 1,200 to 1,500 all-purpose yards for him if he stays healthy the entire season. He looks like an absolute workhorse of a running back, not just between the tackles, but outside as well. So Chase Brown gave us some confidence, and switching it over, I guess, to a little bit more of the lesser known names, right? The first one for me, Chris Jenkins just showed, and mainly in the running game, but he just showed some pop. He showed me something. Hey, that guy is somebody that is going to get the reps over 17 games this season, right? He is somebody where I'm confident that he is going to be one of your 2 starting defensive tackles.
Yeah.
So Chris Jenkins, I liked what I saw out of him. And if I could just go one more, I think Barrett Carter, shout out obviously you, Logan, on the show, man. The pre-draft process, you guys were all over Barrett Carter, and this is the guy that the Bengals ended up taking him, and he's currently slotted to be a backup linebacker. But goddamn, I think that this dude has the flash ability, and he has what the Bengals were missing when it comes to linebacking spot. When we're talking about speed, we're talking about quickness. This dude has that, right? That's what he was prided on when we talked about him in college. And when we talk about what he showed, I mean, he showed the flash, he showed the speed, and mainly on the one play we saw, right, on the blitz, right up the middle, jumping and right in the face of the quarterback, batting the pass. And that is what you want out of a linebacker. And I think that's the flash that I want to see. So when I look at the linebacking core, I think he was the guy that definitely popped the most for me. So I was very, very impressed with Barrett Carter. So,
just to touch on that a little bit more, I think Barrett Carter definitely did handle some responsibilities that was given to him out there, especially, we're talking about him wearing the green dot. There was that one play where he had a sack where he goes out there, he jumps up in the air to make sure that the ball doesn't get past, causes, I think it was McCord, to pull that ball back down and gets a sack. Big time play from him. That's what you're sort of looking for, right? You're looking for this decisive, quick, fast guys that make decisions at an instant spot, because linebackers, you have to be right. You can't afford to be incorrect at that position, because it could force the entire defense to collapse. Touching on some bright spots, I want to give a shout out to Dylan Fairchild, right? I definitely thought the tackles looked good. I thought Orlando Brown looked good. I thought the right guard spot was a question mark. I thought Lucas Patrick, albeit Joe Burrow was on the money today. It seems like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase picked up right where they left off. Joe Burrow, Tanner Hudson picked up where they left off. It was just the ball was just rolling. But there was I saw I look at preseason, and I hate to be the person that just brings stuff up and it being almost a negative, but preseasons are I've used preseasons as glorified televised practices, essentially, against obviously unknown competition to a degree. So I want to make sure that I'm fair to him in saying this, but you're going up against backup defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I was really hoping to see better from Lucas Patrick. Saw him pressured a couple times, and again, as much as we sit on the show, as much as I've talked about how I think the Bengals need to add a veteran guard, still rooting for the guys that are on this team to do well. So when they get those opportunities, get those spots, those shots, I'm hoping that we see something different. I'm hoping we see them make the progress that if this team is going to do anything, if they decide to go with Lucas Patrick throughout down the entire stretch, you just hope that consistency will be the one thing that you'd see. And I thought for the most part, the offensive line looked good as a whole. But I do still have question marks about the right guard spot. Again, that's me nitpicking. Shamar Stewart, I wrote down a couple of notes here.
Yeah.
Shamar Stewart was definitely a bright spot. Though if I was going to critique one part of Shamar Stewart's game, it's going to happen. If I have to nitpick and discuss and dissect Shamar Stewart's game to one point, I would just say, while he was as advertised, he was disruptive out there. You saw the double teams, you saw all that kind of stuff, right? Them trying to get him out of the picture, out of the frame, and he was just wrecking havoc out there. The one thing I will say is I'd like to see him eliminate is all the extra steps. I'd like for him to, use those specialized pass rush moves, not every single time he rushes the passer. More so, use it on third downs, right? Mix it up. And it's going to, listen, that's me probably beating a dead horse. Those are things that are going to come as he matures, as he gets older in the National Football League. But I thought that he showed off his strength. I thought he showed off his physicality. I thought he showed off his speed, his burst, his explosion, the whole 9 yards. I just thought he would have had a lot more success if he didn't do all the Euro steps every single time, which kind of bounced him out of the frame a couple of times. But I thought he did a very, very good job. He is as advertised. Shamar Stewart is going to be a very, very good player for the Cincinnati Bengals. And, I would say if we're shouting out some more stuff, Ryan Rico, I thought he did a very, very good job. Inconsistent at some points, but overall, very, very good job from a punter. Because if you think about it, if you're the Cincinnati Bengals punter, and you have this high-powered offense, you're not expecting to punt as much as Ryan Rico punted today, obviously, if it's an actual game. So I think, like anybody, if you're out there throwing consistently, or you're out there doing anything consistently over and over and over again, you'll probably start to dwindle down as the game goes on, right? If you're consistently punting over time. So I thought Ryan Rico did a very, very good job. Can't blame him for not some of the best punts, but I also didn't think the punts were terrible, right? I thought he gave the return. I thought he gave the I don't even know what you call it, the special teams unit, an opportunity, the gunners back there to make a play.
Totally.
Several times, keeping that ball the hang time in the air. You already touched on Chase Brown, so I won't touch on that. Jermaine Burton is great to see him in the return game. It's great to see him make plays out there. He seems like he has his head on straight. Again, this is what you're hoping to see from Jermaine Burton. How can he help the 2025 Cincinnati Bengals? And is it going to be via special teams? Is it going to be when his number is called on the offensive side of things? A lot of mouths to feed in the offense. So carving out a role for yourself on the football team beyond just receiving is going to be huge from him. He showed explosion. He showed how dynamic he is. And I loved how the Bengals, after that big return, took him out of the game, say, we saw everything we need to see from you. So that's huge for a guy like Jermaine Burton to build on that, build confidence. It's the little things, right? Doing the little things well will result in positive success for a guy like Jermaine Burton. So we've touched on the offensive line, touched on Dylan Fairchild, Shamar Stewart, Jermaine Burton, Chase Brown. How about Money Mac? Money Mac might be back. Money Mac looked like he was on point today. And I think Paul Dano Jr. said it best via his tweet. It's not like regular season kicker snaps. I thought this was a very bright spot for Evan McPherson. We know his struggles from last year. So to see him kind of put it all together was very, very good. The long snappers, I got to give a shout out to the entire special teams unit. I thought the special teams unit as a whole looked good. Caldimatis, Wagner, I know the guy that they brought in from Michigan, he looked very, very good as well. He looked phenomenal. He was pretty jazzed about there as well. So it was good to see the special teams unit start to correct themselves, because last year that was a big concern for a lot of us, because we're not used to that, being spoiled with guys like Mike Nugent and Kevin Huber for years. How about Charlie Jones? Charlie Jones looked great too, right? Charlie Jones looked really, really good. I know a lot of people were sort of writing his obituary, pretty much saying Isaiah Williams and all these other guys could challenge for roster spots, and they were starting to wonder, could Charlie Jones be bounced off this roster? I think Charlie Jones is a guy that's extremely talented. He has a lot to offer this football team, and so I think that he has a lot of good football ahead of him. Another person I want to throw on this list, Daniel, I know I'm talking a lot, so you can tell me to shut up at any point in time. McKinley Jackson, I know he was out there running with the 3s, and at some points he was hitting in there with the 2s. But I do think that McKinley Jackson showed some bright spots today. I know you touched on Chris Jenkins and how you liked how he popped off. I liked how McKinley Jackson showed forth. Eric Gregory even made some splash plays out there. Getting Tanner McKee out of the pocket a couple times. Really putting a hand on these offensive linemen and really making them move the pocket. I thought that was good. I thought it was not a banner day for Howard Cross at all. But let's get to some of the negatives. Let's talk about the negatives.
Yeah, I mean, the number one thing is going to be the defense, I feel like. And when we discuss the defense, for me, Malik, it's going to start with the defensive line. I understand we're going to talk about the cornerbacks. We're going to talk about the secondary. But if you can get pressure in the NFL, you can win football games. Malik, the Bengals did not get pressure. They didn't at the beginning, right? And obviously we started to see some flashes, whether that was from Shamar Stewart or, the second unit. But when we're talking about the starting unit, and I understand there wasn't, 5 of the guys, Dax Hill wasn't out there, but the guys you're rolling out without Trey Hendrickson, you got Joseph Asai, Miles Murphy, your starting defensive line right now, it's not cutting it. It's not. And this is, once again, I understand it's preseason. Sure, we're being a little bit hard, but if we're going to be able to dissect this defense, we're going to say, hey, this defense is going to be so much better than last year. Last year was a fluke. We have to actually talk about the players. I thought Joseph Asai was whatever. I thought Miles Murphy, respectfully, was whatever. Like, if this team is going to reach the heights that we think it is, especially when we're talking about playoffs, defeating guys like Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, you've got to put out a better product. And I think it starts with that defensive line. So for me, the number one thing is Trey Hendrickson has to be on the football field. Whatever you have to do, you've got to get that situated, because the way the defensive line looked this week today, without Trey Hendrickson, it is going to be a long season. So that's just where I start on the defensive line. Just the pass rush, even guys like Chris Jenkins, if that's your starting defensive line, the pass rush looked abysmal against a second unit Eagles offensive line.
One thing I just want to just touch on really, really quickly. So my Loth family said hitting the center, they got some issues. And then Logan Williams said, how about the special teams penalties? Just to clarify, when I was referring to the special teams, I was more so referring to the long snapper, the kicker, and the punting unit. The special teams unit as a whole, from a tackling perspective, that needs to get better. The angling needs to get better. The gunners need to get better. Getting guys on the ground need to get better. Being more disciplined out there needs to get better. It was not a banner day for a guy like DJ Ivey. We decided we were going to discuss the positives, and then we were going to get to the negatives. So, when now that we're talking about that, I do believe that the special teams unit, from a defensive perspective, looked very porous today. Discipline is something that's going to be needed, especially because, listen, football is 3 phases: offense, defense, and special teams, and usually the third part is forgotten about at points and times. And that's when you forget about that, that's when you let up a big punt return, a kick return, right? You miss your assignment, and it can result in a big play. So I think when we talk about this as a whole, I just think that there needs to be better cohesiveness out of that unit. Talking more about the negatives, you touched on the defensive line. I agree. One thing I want to touch on, because I know everybody's kind of talking about Miles Murphy, and I want to touch on this really quickly. Listen, Miles Murphy is allowed to be similar to Sam Hubbard. Myles Murphy is allowed to be a run stuffer. Myles Murphy is allowed to struggle as a pass rusher. I think the part of it that kind of gets mixed up, right, is where he was drafted in the first round, right? And the expectation when you draft an edge rusher in the first round, you're expected to be a guy that can rush the passer, because that is essentially why people view you being drafted where you're drafted. They want to see that upside, and we saw that upside from Myles Murphy at Clemson at points. I think that we often have that mantra where it says it doesn't matter where you're drafted, right? It matters what you do with it when you get the opportunity. We're at that stage of Myles Murphy for me. I don't care that he was drafted in the first round. You want to see something positive that results in success. We have not seen that just yet. We have not seen that just yet. I know that he has spots out there where he looked like, hey, he's getting to his man, and then he kind of just got blocked out of the page. But I just think that when you're going up against the second unit, and albeit it's a vanilla defense, Al Golden's not going to show everything, right? The Bengals defense is not going to show everything week 1 preseason against Philadelphia Eagles, but you would have just hoped to see something. With Shamar Stewart, he jumped off the page, right? Shamar Stewart instantly proved that, hey, probably after Trey Henderson, I'm the best pure pass rusher on this team, right? I didn't see that from Joseph Osai. I'm not just bagging on Myles Murphy. It's also Joseph Osai. I didn't see that from him. I don't see the upside. I have not seen that upside that everybody else is waiting to see. And listen, maybe it's in there, right? And I think talking with Logan, we had a great conversation. He says, well, you look at how Texas used a guy like Joseph Osai. He wasn't your traditional hands in the ground guy. He was dropping back in the coverage. He was doing so many different things at Texas, right? He was the guy that was blitzing the quarterback spine. He was doing so many different things that resulted in him having success. But being a guy with your hands in the ground consistently 24/7 throughout the entire game, that's never necessarily been his game. And so maybe that's why we see some aggression, or to a degree, finding a way to utilize that guy. I definitely think he has some talent. I do believe that he can rush the passer, but I do not think that being that high leverage sack guy that we're all expecting to be, I don't know if that's going to be the case. And I think if one thing was proven today of all things was you got to pay Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah.
I think Trey Hendrickson needs to get paid. I think that you don't want to see what this defense pass rush looks like without a Trey Hendrickson. Shamar Stewart, for as good as he did look, how much he, as much as he flashed, that's to say, because he definitely had his struggles as well. I still think that we have to remember he's a rookie and have to temper expectations to a degree. But I do think Shamar Stewart, along with Trey Hendrickson, with guys like Myles Murphy, guys like Joseph Osai, guys like Cam Sample rotating in, it could provide some positive depth and some positive results as well. Danny, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, man. I think when we talk about the defensive line, it's very clear to me. The number one thing I'm looking at, Shamar Stewart, there were a lot, of plays where it's like he fell over, or on the stunt, he absolutely did nothing. But the bottom line for me is, and the point you made about Myles Murphy is great. I just think at this point right now, I don't see how you can be confident in your starting defensive ends being Joseph Osai and Myles Murphy. That's where I'm at. And for me, when I look at Shamar Stewart, the only way this guy can get better is by getting him snaps. So he needs to be getting serious snaps, Malik, week 1. Like there shouldn't be a world where week 1, he's not getting at least 15 to 20 snaps on defense. If I see him out there for 5 to 10 snaps week 1, I think that's just a poor use, because we're talking about the long game. We're talking about week 16, week 17, week 18. And I think that's where you need Shamar Stewart, because at the end of the day, Malik, when you look at these guys, I watched the Ravens preseason game. You see guys flash. Mike Green flashed. When guys have that high upside. And quite frankly, when I look at the Bengals, I think as a pure pass rusher, like you said, it's Trey Hendrickson, Shamar Stewart, and that's it.
Can I be real with you about something, man? I've been hammering home something for quite some time. You probably remember me saying it last year a bunch, and in the offseason before we went on a hiatus. I'm going to hammer it home again. Guys, I really believe there is a life for Myles Murphy if they move him on the interior.
Yeah.
I really believe so. I think trying to make him fit where he hasn't necessarily shown that just yet is a mistake. I always go back to the Joe Judge tweet comment he made in his opening press conference, and it's crazy. I'm quoting Joe Judge. Don't tell me why a player doesn't fit your system. Tell me why he does.
Yep.
Tell me what you're doing to make him fit a system. So for me, I think Myles Murphy with that size, right? That athleticism, because he is athletic, he does have size. Why not try him out inside? He did a little bit his rookie year and he had success. We were at a couple of games his rookie year where he flashed on the inside, where he was able to get a move on the pocket. I do believe that there's a life for Myles Murphy on the inside. I think that he's never going to be that quick twitch guy that you're expecting him to be. And I know some people said, well, maybe there's a little bit of, maybe he could turn the corner at some point, and maybe he can, who knows? But I don't think that, I think at this point, albeit the Bengals were out without BJ Hill, right? I think that there is something to be said for having that size in the interior of your defensive line. Yeah. I think Myles Murphy could do well. He has shown the ability to stop the run, but I think at edge, there's just so much going on there. Whether it's, hey, he's not quick enough, right? Or he's not processing it quick enough. Why not kick him in the inside and see what he's got, right? That's just my thought process. Move that guy inside and let him rush the pass from inside. I think he'd have success. I really believe that. What are your thoughts, though?
Yeah, I'm with you all the way. And like I said, I need to go back and I don't know if I'm going to go back and rewatch this whole game, but there was moments where I could have sworn whether it's he dove inside or when he's working on the interior of the offensive line, that's where it seems like he's at his best because
he's 6 foot. He's what, 6'6",
he's a big dude,
280, right? That you can't defend against that, right? You're a nightmare. You clog passing lanes. You make offenses have to react to that. You make quarterbacks feel uncomfortable, even if you don't necessarily have the best pass rush moves. Guess what? These tackles, their job is to know your every move, right? They're trying to beat you to the spot. They're trying to stop you where you're going, and you have to have some bend. Myles Murphy doesn't have the bend right now on the edge. It's not to say he can't develop that, and it's can't say that Jerry Montgomery won't work that with him. But I think if you're trying to get something out of your former first-round pick, well, you have to exasperate every attempt to get the most out of him. Why not move him to the inside and see what you got? Because right now, one thing you could say is if you move Myles Murphy to the inside, it doesn't have to be consistently, but let him get some snaps on the inside, right? You could say right now, we do not have anybody on the interior of the defensive line that matches him in stature.
Yeah.
Am I right? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
You move him into the interior. Who else is offering you those snaps with that size, with that frame, with those intangibles? Who's doing it? Nobody. It's okay. Listen, I believe there is a world in which he could work where if he's rushing the pass from the inside, and I'd love to see it personally.
Yeah, and once again, we appreciate everybody. Make sure you guys subscribe, and we got a comment. Like Jacqueline Hyde said, is Murphy a chicken egg scenario? Is it the player or development? I think at this point, like you said, you've got to try something different because from what I've seen, I think we've seen enough reps of Myles Murphy on the edge through his first 2 seasons and even in this preseason to know, hey, he is not going to be a dominating pass rusher right now. That's not what he is. And you don't have the time to wait for that on the edge right now. So I think that can take development. But if you're looking at him now, I do think I agree. You need to see him get minutes or snaps on the inside this season and early because it's a constant thing. And once again, we're nagging on him, but we're nagging on him because of what is the expectation. I'm talking about him as a starting edge rusher in the NFL. That's my expectation. And my expectation is that you have to be able to be agile enough to contain the edge as well as break on the inside. And many times it just doesn't seem like it's there for him.
I think the edge thing, the passers, that's the whole thing's overblown.
Yeah.
It's almost similar to the NBA, right? Where it's positionless basketball. You got guys who are 6'8", but they run the ball up the court like they're a point guard, right? It's become positionless to a degree. There are teams in the league that will find a spot. If you're talented enough, they will find a spot for you on this football team, right? You saw Mekhi Becton. He wasn't working out at tackle. So what did the Eagles do when he came to the Eagles? They moved him into the interior of the offensive line. They found a spot for him. They made it work. And it can be similar for guys along the defensive line. There are guys who struggle on the edge, right? Maybe they come in and they think, hey, I'm going to be an edge rusher. Then they realize, hey, I'm not. That's really not what works for me. There is something to be said about his size. I don't think that he's just going to be a complete bum. I don't believe that. I think that if you kick that guy inside, I think that he can create serious movement. He can create serious momentum on the interior of the defensive line. Why? Because the guys you're going up against in the interior, 6'4", some of them 6'3". Every now and again, you go against guys that are similar to your size, 6'5", 6'6". But for the most part, these guys are around 6'3", 6'4". You have a notable size advantage already. So when rushing moving the pocket against them, there's going to be some success that's going to be had just honestly just based off of your frame and your size and your stature. Then you start working in the little tweaks. Then you start working in the movement, right? Then you start working with the hands, and then you try to say, hey, maybe we can unlock something else from your game there. But at the very least, you can clog the lanes. The reason why Sam Hubbard had success when he also rushed inside, right? Remember, there was points in times where the Bengals would move Michael Johnson inside or Carlos Dunlap inside and do all these different weird things, right? And it would generate pressure. So for me, it's I think that it's the same. It's the same to be said why you might see a defensive coordinator like Steve Spagnuolo take a guy like Chris Jones and move him to the edge. Although that's not necessarily his spot, it's to create a different look and it's to create more pressure from different areas and let more things free up. So I don't know, just a thought for me.
Yeah, and the last point on the Miles Murphy thing is the dude is like, he may not have the quickness on the outside, but like you said, he's got the mismatch on both ends. I think when you talk about guys who are the bigger guards, I think he could be faster than them. And I think it's very clear that he's got the straight line speed, but it's the quick twitch. And I agree. I think it's clear right now. I think he could do damage from the inside. Malik, moving it over.
Well, one thing I want to say, question, because we're not going to get to questions today, but we'll definitely make sure we answer something. State of Jungle. I just want to answer this real quickly. Somebody said, I thought Miles wasn't getting enough rip at defensive end because of Hubbard. I asked that question last year, and I was told by several people, just not ready. Just wasn't ready at defensive end. It wasn't a thing about we didn't want to play him. Just like, hey, when he got the opportunity, it just seemed like it was just too much thinking out there. It was just too much information. And, I get the thing where people were saying the scheme was a little bit too much. And I agree. And I heard that sentiment from a lot of people. Hey, the scheme was a little bit too much, too complex. But for defensive linemen, that should never be the case because your job is not the coverage. Your job, not unless you're dropping back into coverage, your job is to truly maintain your gap, rush the passer, right, and fill your gap. That's literally what your responsibility is. So if I'm being told that, hey, no, from several people, hey, the reason why he's not getting a lot of play time is because there's information overload out there. There's got to be some truth to that. And now we're starting to see that on the football field. It's like there's not necessarily, some people hadn't brought up, there's not necessarily a second move or second thought there. But it was weird because those some of the same individuals I would talk to would say, hey, Joseph Ossai is really going to break out this year. Really excited for him. And I'm like, I see him overthinking out there at points in times too. I don't see him just playing freely. And I saw similar of that today. I don't know, just my thoughts, but continue.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I think that's where Bengals fans are allowed to be concerned right now. You guys are allowed to be concerned, and you're also allowed to say, hey, I think that there is a lot of room for potential. There's a lot of room for growth. And that kind of leads me to the next thing. Looking at the cornerbacks real quick, Malik. First thing is Dax Hill was not out there, and I believe Cam Taylor-Britt was not out there. So you were going in already shorthanded. I think that those two guys, especially the Dax Hill portion, they would look a lot better. And I'm confident they would look a lot better. I mean, we talked about it completely. So I don't put too much stock into, the Josh Newton getting mossed by Johnny Wilson. I mean, that's you've got to have a matchup for that, but that's just a great play by Johnny Wilson. And that's also something I don't think happens when you have the dominant pass rush that you hope to have. So just looking at those guys, like I said, Josh Newton, obviously he didn't flash today. He was fine. And then the rest of the cornerbacks, they weren't impressive today. And that's the truth, right? DJ Ivey looked sloppy at times. And I wasn't impressed at all by the cornerbacks. And then just looking at the linebacking unit, like I said, I think Logan Wilson just didn't really do much, but that's to be expected. And that's also a good thing when you don't hear a linebacker's name, when you don't hear a safety's name, sometimes that's a good thing. And I think that was the case with Logan Wilson. And I think you are expecting Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter to come in and fill that youthful role. So Logan Wilson could kind of just be that downhill force. So
what were your thoughts on Jordan Battle?
Jordan Battle, I mean, I was hoping to see some more. Like, I didn't really see much, to be honest with you. I think the biggest thing, and this could go one of two ways, but on the first long run, obviously he caught the running back, and I think that was good. And I think that's something that he's always, at least that's probably my favorite part of his game, is he is a sure tackler from what I've seen. I think that's probably the biggest bright spot I saw out of him. But as far as getting impact plays from the safeties, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I saw anything, to be honest with you. Whether that was, I know Geno Stone left the game pretty early.
I didn't think any of the safeties, outside of maybe Tyson Anderson, a player or two, flashed.
Yeah.
I didn't think any of the safety. I thought Dejan looked bad. I thought Jordan looked bad. I thought Gino looked bad.
Yeah.
Just my thoughts.
No, completely. Yeah.
They looked lost out there. And again, you didn't have your starting cornerback tandem out there, Cam Taylor, Britt Dax Hill. But more of the same from DJ Turner struggles, right? And it's like, yeah, maybe you get comfortable with the guys that you're going against consistently, but we need to see better from that unit. And again, I gotta believe, I've gotta hang my hat on saying Al didn't show everything today. That's what I gotta hang my hat on. Al did not show everything as a defense coordinator, nor would I expect him to. But this is the secondary. We clamored for these opportunities, and now you're getting these opportunities. You got to show up. You got to show up at a big spot. You can't be getting carved up by Tanner McKee and Kyle McCord.
Completely. And once again, I'm not gonna. I'm really holding myself to not press the panic button here. But I think when we look at the change of the defensive coordinator, I feel like everybody is kind of expecting this. I mean, look at the Eagles. I forgot who they fired, but they fired a defensive coordinator. And literally the year after, they're one of the best units.
Was this Sean Desai?
I think it was.
Who was actually the Bengals? Isn't he the Bengals?
He's one of the.
He's on our staff.
Yeah.
He's on the Bengals staff now.
But the difference is, and this is no shot at the talent. I think there is talent on this team, but there's no. It's going to take a monumental effort, Malik. I'm being honest, right?
Yeah, I don't think about monumental, Daniel. And the reason why I disagree with that is because I think that they showed flashes last year down the stretch where, when the game plan got simplified. I just think that everybody needs to just relax, just do your job.
Yep.
Less thinking out there. Just do your job. I think that's all. I don't want to, because I do think Lou was an issue at points, right? And I know people thinks that I'm such a Lou homer. No, I think Lou was the issue at points as well. And watching the film, his defense didn't look that great today either.
Yeah.
And that's okay, right? But at the end of the day, I don't want to make this a Lou, and I'm not saying you were making this or like a Lou. It's not that. At the end of the day, you can get rid of coaches, you can do all that, but at some point the players got to play.
Totally.
And they raved about Al Golden and how he allows them to just play freely in the system. So now he's allowing you, he's giving you an opportunity to play freely in the system. Now you have to make that decision that he's giving you right. You have to make sure that you play, because guess what? Everybody on that defense, if your name's not Trey Hendrickson, has something to prove.
Yes.
Everybody has to, especially in the secondary. There's not a person that should feel comfortable. There's not a person right now in the Cincinnati Bengals in that secondary that is guaranteed a second contract. There's not one person in that secondary that has earned a second contract from the Cincinnati Bengals. Not Cam Taylor Britt, not Dax Hill, right? Not Fig, not Jordan Battle, not Geno Stone. All of these guys are on prove-it deals.
Yep.
And that's the mentality they should have. Everybody, whether it's for injury, whether it's for inconsistencies or whatever, or no fault of their own, everybody is on a prove-it year. Prove-it year. Everybody is. And that's the mentality. If this defense is going to turn this thing around, that has to be the mentality. You coach, I coach, right? We know this. Like, you have to think with that mentality, because every single day rent is due. Being consistent is a part of the job. It's what's expected of you. And so for me, the results that we've seen so far from the Cincinnati Bengals defense has not been good. The early returns has not been good. All right. So at the end of the day, everything needs to turn around.
Yeah.
Everything needs to turn around. Right. Zach Taylor will talk about communication not being good. Well, we've been hearing communication has been good for the last 3 years now, basically. Well, I'm saying, two in a preseason game. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens as this goes on. Daniel, anything else you want to touch on?
Yeah, I think, like you said, this is something where everybody they've got to be ready, because I think that we've seen it time and time again. Knock on wood, but injuries happen. These guys that we saw today, you're going to get run. Newton's going to get run. McKinley Jackson's going to get run. These guys are going to get run in big time games and big time moments. And I think the one positive is, hey, at least these guys are getting reps. McKinley's getting reps. Your young guys are getting reps. That's why you've got two more preseason games, I believe. Get them as many reps. But besides that, I'm just looking at these names. One last name I thought was interesting. I've always liked Shaka Hayward. I think he deserves a spot on the back end of the roster. I mean, when we're talking, you've got obviously Logan, you've got Demetrius Knight, you've got Barrett Carter. I think Shaka Hayward is, from a pure downhill run defending guy, a pure sure tackling guy, I think Shaka Hayward deserves a spot. And I think, obviously, you look at the stats, sure. He led the team in tackles today with 6 total tackles. And I think that's what you're getting out of him. I think you're getting a guy who's played one NFL game, but he is as good of a sure tackler as you've got. He obviously lacks the top end speed. He lacks the top end athleticism, but he's one of the guys I circled from today and said, hey, I think that dude can slot right in a pinch if you need him, if Logan Wilson goes down. And I think he can fill that role. And I think he can fill that role pretty well. Like I said, he lacks some athleticism. I don't expect him to go out there and cover a Travis Kelce or cover these top end tight ends. But from a pure linebacking standpoint, I think he 1000% deserves a spot at the back end of this roster.
Who's that? Shaka
Shaka Hayward.
Somebody said, what are your thoughts on the backup quarterback order?
I think that Desmond Ridder, I thought he looked bad at the beginning of the game, to be honest with you. I thought he did. But he settled in. And the one thing that you have to always applaud a quarterback, and this even goes back to his college days, is I want a guy who can just pull the trigger on the ball. And you saw multiple times, even there was a couple plays, he had one of the dump offs.
Mm-hmm.
He looked downfield first. He was going for the deep ball. And I think when I talk about a backup quarterback, you need a guy who can come in a pinch.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's Jake Browning, like at the moment. But I think if you're looking long-term and potential long-term, I think Desmond Ridder is the guy. Like,
you know what's funny about this? And looking at this and talking about it, man.
Yeah.
I think that it's a weird, right? It's weird because you know what Jake Browning has provided for you in the past.
Yeah.
When Joe Burrow was out, Jake Browning was able to rattle off a couple of wins, keep the Bengals in playoff contention. They obviously wanted to make the playoffs, obviously. But you saw that you could win games with Jake Browning down the stretch. You saw it, right? We all saw it. And he's on the roster because that's what you're looking for in a backup quarterback. Can you come in and execute the game plan in a pinch, right? And it's almost like, I'm trying to think of an example. It's almost like a player who won, it's almost like a Udonis Haslem, right? Doesn't really offer that much to the team as much anymore. May have at one point in time, but he's a vibes guy. He's a guy that is a good culture fit. Everyone likes him. It's not a negative to have around. And probably can come in and reiterate exactly what everyone's trying to do for the second unit, for the 30. He can mimic things. He can do things. Then you got Desmond Ridder on the other hand, who's a guy that's fighting for his NFL career, essentially. He has ties to the city of Cincinnati. You could see that Desmond Ridder was playing with a different level of it. Almost, and I hope I'm not sounding stupid when I say this.
No, you make sense.
And we're talking about Jake Browning versus Desmond Ridder here. But Jake Browning played like a guy that is secure in his job. And Desmond Ridder started off like a guy frantic. He looked like a guy that was signed a couple weeks ago. But then he started letting it rip. He led a 90-plus yard drive for a touchdown down the field for the Cincinnati Bengals in a preseason game. He played like a guy that wanted it. Mm-hmm. Now, Jake Browning is capable, right? But you also know that Desmond Ridder has some intangibles, and that's the word I hate. That's the word I hate. I like a quarterback that's going to let it rip. My problem with Jake Browning is he's too comfortable with the checkdowns. Yeah. He only let it rip when he has Jamar Chase in there. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yep.
I like the fact because guess what? Just as well as Jake Browning, right? I'm sorry, not Jake Browning. Desmond Ridder is fighting for his job in the National Football League. Guess what? Guess what, Daniel? Those receivers that he's throwing to, the Priors of the world, right? There were some guys out there, I don't even know the hell their name was. They're fighting for a job too. And if you're not giving them an opportunity, what are we doing? Yeah. Now, let's go back to the original point. I would like to see, I think competition breeds success. Yeah. I would like to see Desmond Ridder run with the twos next week, if he is comfortable enough in the playbook. Not to say, Jake Browning, we're not happy with you. Let's just see what you got. Yep. Let's just see what you got. Because you owe it to yourself, or else why are you keeping that guy on the roster? Is he just a camp body? The guy was a former third round pick. That's still a pretty high pick to some degree. I'd like to see what he has. I'd like to see him let it rip with Jermaine Burton. I'd like to see him let it rip with guys like Charlie Jones in there. Just give it to him. Let's see what happens. What's the worst that could happen?
Throw a pick.
If it's 100% Jake Browning's job, you put something on film and make a team come calling and say, hey, we'll give you a late rounder for Desmond Ridder or something like that.
Yep.
Give that guy an opportunity to put good film on tape so that way another team can come grab him. If it's not a competition, if it's Jake Browning's job running away. That's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I think just to close that out, you have 2 preseason games left. You know what you have with Jake Browning. You're not going to see anything different from Jake Browning. And the worst case scenario, Jake Browning's whole purpose, respectfully, right now is if Joe Burrow goes down. And I'm looking at Desmond Ridder. I say, hey, he got what, 1.5 quarters, of reps today. I need to see at least 6 quarters of him in the preseason, and I think he deserves that. I think that's the Bengals owe it to themselves, because I do think that they'd be doing themselves a disservice if Jake Browning sees a lot of reps in preseason, because like obviously somebody said Desmond Ridder overthrew 8 passes. Yes, he had some rough plays, but
he let it rip.
Yeah.
He let it rip. He gave guys an opportunity. Even if it wasn't the best opportunity, he gave him an opportunity. He gave himself an opportunity. And that's what it was about, right? It wasn't just, hey, check down, punt. Check down, punt. It's not what it was, right? You want to see what you have in a guy. All these guys are not just out here to execute an offense, and to execute install. These guys are fighting and playing for their football futures. And if you give them nothing to show to other teams, those football futures will be very, very short-lived. They will be. Because guess what? At the end of the day, we didn't see it on film. You could work out and be a great workout guy. You could be a good practice guy, but we're not seeing that necessarily. Obviously, teams can see film from practice if they ask those NFL teams to provide those things, but I'm talking about in actual live game reps. You want guys that get the opportunity to prove what they can do. So it's a little bit of an interesting thing. My honest opinion, man, I think everybody should be in comp. I think every job for the most part, backup jobs for the most part, should you should consistently be competing for those things, because we've seen backup quarterbacks fall off. We've seen backup quarterbacks get comfortable and be rusty. And Colin, you don't have to agree. It's okay, my man. He says letting it rip isn't going to help pass first offense if he can't get there accurately. Also, the dude was signed 3 weeks ago. He was signed 3 weeks ago. That is what we're debating here right now. He was signed 3 weeks ago. Right? How many runs did he actually get to run with the ones or the two or whatever the case may be? It's not that deep, but I do believe that he deserves he should get the opportunity as the preseason progresses. I do believe that. I do. What is it going to hurt? What are we even talking about here? I don't think Desmond Ridder running with the twos next game is a bad thing. Let him put up game film. It's preseason. The score does not matter, right? But if we're talking about, hey, just executing offense, check downs, punt versus a guy that's going to actually put a fire under and try to compete and that is what you're looking for, because that is what you need if you were to lose your backup quarterback. So at the end of the day, it is what it is. Somebody said he had the same problem in Atlanta. He is who he is. Hey, listen, and the same could be said. And listen, I hate that I'm even dying on this hill right now, because if that was everyone's story, then Jake Browning would be a car salesman in Washington right now. Because guess what? That was a guy that was getting called up from the practice squad by the Minnesota Vikings over and over again, cut. Called up from practice squad, Minnesota Vikings, and cut over and over again. And everybody was like, why are the Bengals signing him? What did the Bengals see in him? Nobody thought he was really that good. And then he caught lightning in a bottle, had a couple games where he had success. So I don't think anybody's story is written or with certain finality, if you will. And if you're a UC fan or if you're a fan of Cincinnati, we all certainly know that. That's just my thoughts, though.
Yeah.
But I think that I don't think anybody thought Jake Browning was going to be the Bengals backup quarterback for this long when he first got here, right? Brandon Allen was the backup quarterback here. I don't think anybody felt anything differently, because Jake Browning also never got the opportunity in Minnesota to prove it. Besides in preseason games, he didn't look great when he did it. So that's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I think and all we're saying too, like for me, I just want to see him. I just want to see it. And I think that it's important also for these receivers as well. You've got to give them an opportunity. Yeah. Like I forgot the guy's name who caught the deep pass, but that is I
don't even know what his name was.
Like,
I don't even know what that guy's name was. But guess what? That is a play that he is going to share on his Instagram story. and be like, "Yes, Lord, Mama, we
Yeah.
made it." Like that's where he's going to be excited about
Yes.
that. So at the end of the day, so Colin, you said I'm all for competition and him running with the set twos. Just saying, yeah, let it rip is good, but if you can't get it there accurately, it's not going to help and will likely lead to interceptions. And yes, Colin, we understand that. And what I'm saying is context matters in saying that, right? That's being disingenuous by making it seem like we're just saying let it rip because so he should run with the twos. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is context matters in the situation. He literally was signed 3 weeks ago. He got the opportunity late in the game to run with the threes. He out of any of the quarterbacks that were on the football field, he led a night outside of Joe Burrow, obviously. He led a 90+ yard drive. There is something there. So guess what? With more time in the system and getting more acclimated with these receivers, maybe he looks better next week, right? Running with the twos. Maybe he does. But simply saying he just shouldn't, he shouldn't get an opportunity. I know that's not what you're saying, brother. It's not the case. That's just my thought process. But listen, we've been live way too long. We've been live way too long. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. I think in total we're over close to 1,200 views from the Twitter and the YouTube. We greatly appreciate you guys. Remember, guys, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content. We really do greatly appreciate you guys for tuning in and making us part of your regular schedule. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all so much. I know it's late. The one thing I'll say is the Bengals will look better as the season progresses. So let's not pull our hairs out. Those preseason game. This is glorified practices, meaningful practices, and meaningful reps. But again, the biggest thing is going to be progression. Progression is what's going to matter. Seeing the progression out of these guys. Danny, any last thing you want to say?
Yeah, man, I'm just excited to see these young guys. And I think it's fun doing this, and it's fun analyzing because at the end of the day, like I said, a lot of these guys, they're not going to get meaningful snaps in the regular season, but this is why we do the draft content. This is why we do this content all year round to give these guys an opportunity. And it's fun. And like I said, for everybody who's watching, we appreciate having you guys along with the journey because these comments, these conversations, this is what makes it fun for us. So long season ahead, and we're excited for it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate you guys so much. Hope that you guys enjoy your evening. Football is back. We're back, and we're pretty excited to see you guys next week on State of the Jungle. But until next time, Who Dey?
All they ever do is win, so kick that, relax the team.